Welcome to the Grapevine show here on KZLX LP Maryville. So tonight is a different episode. I'm going to try to do an on-air interview for the first time. So I'm here with John Mackey.
Hello.
So I'm sorry, I did not come prepared with a script. I should have written a script. So tell me about yourself, like what kind of music you make.
Mostly like country, kind of red dirt, you might call it. Texas country is kind of what some people call it. It's kind of all falls under Americana now, really. And so it kind of, my sound really comes from a lot of the old, my mom listened to a lot of the old 60s and 70s classic rock stuff. And so I spent a lot of time with her records and everything. And then Dad, he listened to the country stuff. And so I kind of melded that and kind of created more of a sound like the Eagles, I guess, that kind of country rock kind of version of stuff. So
that's kind of like, I don't want to say country doesn't have rock and roll in it, because it definitely had its own influences, or more like country influenced, like rock and roll music, basically.
Right.
Like, even back in the 60s.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're doing the opposite of that in some ways, or combining it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I do a lot of like solo acoustic stuff, and so it's funny because like in my head I'm hearing what I'm hearing with the electric guitar and the fiddle and everything, and I'm like, nobody gets the same sound that I hear in my head, so that kind of sucks. But
I mean, have you thought of doing like a full like band arrangement?
I'd like to, but finding time to get a band together. So what I record in my bedroom obviously is all me. And so I get to add stuff to it. But as far as getting a band, it's just between work and kids and everything, I haven't had time in a long time to have a band. So.
I mean, still doing it like solo music just to like still get your music out there though, basically.
Yeah, I'm kind of approaching it more now as like a kind of a singer-songwriter, and more with the emphasis on songwriting. And so, for like other people. So I'm like registering all my stuff with like BMI, and so we can get stuff hopefully out to other artists who might be interested. That's kind of my goal now. So.
I mean, there's probably, I don't know, is there more money in songwriting potentially?
It's potential, because if you happen to be good. And can write some hit songs, and then more people start recording your songs. So then you could have, 10 or 12 songs out there at one time on the charts. Whereas, as an artist, you're releasing one song at a time, really. And it's more rare to have two songs unless you're like Taylor Swift, right? And so as a songwriter, you can be more successful, but unfortunately with the way the royalties and all are structured, it's really hard to be really successful unless you can have a big name artist, record some good songs for you. But my goal now is just maybe get one. I mean that's kind of get started, and then hopefully from there it'll take off.
I mean, since you're into like, I'm gonna call it classic rock from the 70s. I think that's still technically classic rock. Is the 70s?
I think classic rock now they consider 90s.
Well, that's weird. The 90s were not that long ago, though, so weird to think.
Right.
It's like, it does not make sense. But since you're into like classic rock, are you also into like classic cars?
Yeah, I do. And I think this next song we're gonna have is a buddy of mine is really into cars, and so he actually went out and bought a black Cadillac, and so I told him I was going to write a song for him, and he's kind of known as being a little adventurous, and so the song has a little comedy kind of tongue-in-cheek thing going on, where but it's all centered around this black Cadillac and some adventures of a man who is maybe a little promiscuous.
So here is the next song. It's by John Mackey himself. It's called Black Cadillac here on the Grapevine show.
day. My head was found in same clothes as yesterday. Trying to remember what I did and what I said. Then I found a note written by the bed, and it said, thanks for the party, I had a great time, laughing and drinking old bottles of wine. If I ever do make it back, promise me another ride in your black Cadillac. Took just a minute and a look around the room. The things got clearer and I feared that I was doomed. 'Cause I don't have a king-size bed or a wine rack. In my jeans I found the key to someone's Cadillac. I had a great time, laughing and drinking old bottles of wine. If I ever do make it on back, promise me another ride in your black Cadillac. Well, the moral of the story, if there ever was at all, is wake a little early before the owners can call. The cops who can get you and put you away. At least I've got this pretty note of my last free day. Thanks for the party, I had a great time, laughing and drinking old bottles of wine. But if I ever do make it back, please promise me another ride in your black Cadillac. Baby, I promise you another ride in this black Cadillac.
Hey, welcome back to the Grapevine Show here on KZLX LP Maryville. I'm here with John Mackey, a local musician. So we were just talking about Nashville, like, during the break.
Yeah, and it's, we were talking about songwriting before that. And, a lot of the songwriters are in Nashville, it seems like. And so, but I kind of identify more with Austin. And Austin is more of what I would call more, has a little more traditional sound to it as far as country goes. And Nashville's more of the pop country sound. And so as a writer, I kind of identify more with Austin. But
if it's more like singer-songwriter, it's not as, like, mass-produced sounding, for lack of a better term.
Right. Yeah, and that's, Nashville's trying to get to the masses, It seems more of like a corporation almost, with, I don't know if they have shareholders or not, but that's kind of what it feels like. And so, but with Austin, a lot of people write their own songs. So, if you're going to do that, you kind of got to do your own. It's not more of a songwriter town, unless you're also the artist itself. So, been trying to talk my wife into moving down there for a few years, but it's so expensive. But yeah, like, I mean, there's good music coming out of Nashville. Don't get me wrong. There are some that I really like Midland is really good.
I almost put one of your songs on this set
Really?
tonight. I almost did.
They got a lot of good stuff. I really do like them. And Cody Johnson was really good. He kind of, there's a lot of them that kind of come from the red dirt scene and then kind of move into the Nashville scene. And I think Nashville's kind of picked up on that. That these guys already have a following, you know, kind of tapped into, and so they can, you know, kind of just put them in their stuff, and there it is. And so I like that they're doing that. I think it's really helping grow country music and kind of bring it back to some tradition anyway. So
it's still like, I don't want to say authentic country music, because I feel like the wrong word, but if it's more like true to yourself as an artist, it seems, because a lot of like the top, or like more like pop side of music, a lot of it feels so factory made. It's like stifling the art in some ways. Yeah,
and you know, it's kind of like a lot of the pop stuff. You know, it's, you know, they're trying to get this really catchy beat with something that is easy to remember, an easy hook to remember. You know, and they're not telling a story. You know, and I like a lot of stories, you know, in my music. So, you know, and they're, like I said, they're getting a lot of LA writers, you know, coming out to Nashville. And this has been going on for the last, you know, it's probably been going on for a long time, but really they've talked about it for the last 10, 15 years. And you can see the trend going that way. So you can kind of like follow the music over the last 15 years, and you see where it has the, you know, the click tracks and you know, all that going on in the background.
It seems weird, because I know like the 60s and 70s, which that was like ages ago, a lot of musicians would head out to Los Angeles basically, because that's where like everything was at, like
right.
Hollywood and stuff, and I was like, you gotta go to Nashville almost.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is they're trying to, you know, when we were growing up, and, well, at least I was growing up. I'm a little older. But when I was growing up, country music was almost completely separated from any kind of pop. Like they would have, you know, like the American Music Awards or whatever it was, you know, rock, rap.
Like metal.
You know,
like
metal,
pop.
yeah. It was all that kind of stuff. And then, like, they might have one award for a country, right? And so... And then they would have the Country Music Awards completely separate. And maybe that's what it needs to be. I don't know, you know, but I'm fine with my country music not being appealed to the masses as long as it's actually country music, but.
Yeah. If it's not like, I don't know, I feel like there's a difference between like pop music. I think it's happened with rock sometimes, too, where it becomes trendy.
Yeah.
And then you lose the essence of it, because it just becomes too commercialized in some ways. It's like, what's the next trend? How can we capitalize on this, basically?
It's like somebody was talking about Nickelback the other day, and it was like, you know, and I said, well, everybody hates Nickelback for some reason, but everybody knows their songs, right?
Sorry.
So I was like, oh, you hated it so much you listened to it 200 times, right?
Yeah.
So.
Or even like good songs. If you like hear something like, even like Bob Dylan, if you overhear it, you can start to not like it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Which is a shame, because there's like, I think Bob Dylan was a genius. Like, he was like a poet. Yeah. I know, like, I read an interview, he hates that label. He's like, you know, because he's like the one person who does not want fame, but he's like, deserves fame, basically.
Yeah. Well, his approach to songwriting, he kind of looked at it like, you know, I've heard other people say this before. It's like he doesn't know where the songs come from, you know. They just, you know, sometimes he wakes up and there they are, you know. And I've noticed the ones that I like the best of mine and of other artists are ones where they're like, I don't know, I just woke up and it was there. Or, you know, it just, something worked through me and created this song, you know.
Or if they've literally dreamt it, like Rolling Stone's Satisfaction.
Yeah.
Keith Richards, like, woke up with that guitar riff in his head. It's like, I gotta record this right now.
Right. Yeah, and so, you know, and writing, I get it. I mean, obviously I know how to rhyme words and structure things, but a lot of times it just comes from out of nowhere, and it's like, I gotta write it down, you know. And if I don't, like, I've been known to pull over on the side of the road to write it down, or at least pull my phone up and, like, do a voice memo or something, you know, because there's been so many songs that they came and just went. It's just, you know, and
it's
so.
Like, if you don't write it down, it's like, I've had this, like, writing ideas. Like, I have an idea before I go to sleep. Or, like, I remember it in the morning. I do not remember it in the morning. Like, it just leaves, like, my brain.
Yeah. You're like, I'll go over it a couple times and I'll remember it. And then, you know, when you finally try to sit down and write it, you go, nope, I can't remember any of this. Yeah. Or if I can remember the words, I can't remember how it was structured, you know, but.
How many guitars do you have? It's like a totally random question.
How many do I have, or how many does my wife know about? I have probably 15, somewhere in there. But I actually use about 2, you know. Yeah, I got a Gretsch acoustic. That's kind of my number one that I play out with. And then I got a Telecaster that I built.
Did you build it yourself?
Well, out of bits and pieces. I took, 3 or 4 guitars and put them together.
Like Frankenstein?
Yeah, exactly. Like a parts caster is what they would call it. And it sounds really good, and it plays really great, and I really like that. So that's what most of my lead work on my songs is through that Telecaster, and then all my acoustic stuff is mostly through that Gretsch. And the reason I play Gretsch is because my grandpa, who really got me into music first, before I even knew that I liked music, he played guitar, and they played in a band in the 60s and 70s, and so he played Gretches, and so I just kind of gravitated to that. It's like, well, if it's good enough for Grandpa, it's good enough for me, right? And so when I finally got a guitar, he showed me a couple chords, and away we went, So
did your grandfather basically inspire you to be a musician?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't push it or anything, but we were just, a lot of times we'd sit around the living room or whatever in their house, and they'd be just jamming, and they weren't really playing out when I was old enough to know about it. But everybody in the family still played, and so they'd get together and just jam. And so that was a lot of my early memories of them, was just jamming in the living room or on the porch. And so that really got me into that feeling of playing and the camaraderie of playing with other people. And so that's really what got me into playing music, was that. And then, of course, then my early influences of Elvis and the Beatles and George Strait and Merle Haggard, was what really then lit the fire, once I started doing that stuff. So.
Well, this next song's actually by Elvis Presley, and since we were kind of talking about how music can be kind of cheesy, it fits that too.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's for one of his movies, which, let's just say his movies were questionable and probably would not be made if it was not with Elvis Presley in them. So here is Guitar Man by Elvis Presley on The Grapevine Show. Alright, you listen to The Grapevine Show in KZLX LP Maryville. That was Christopherson, I almost cannot say his name, with me and Bobby McGee, which people may be more familiar with the Janis Joplin version, because that was, I think, her biggest hit after she died. But Chris Christopherson, I almost cannot say his name again, was the one who wrote it. I'm here with John Mackey, a local musician.
Hello. Yeah, we were talking about that, with this song, and it was kind of funny because I like to play it live because I'll do Chris's version of it, and people are always like, why did you slow that down? Why did you do that to that song? And I get to educate them that, Chris wrote it. And, like I said, Janis has an incredible version of it, obviously. But and the story I got was she did it as a joke to Chris, because they were good friends, and he had just wrote it, and she found it and was like, I'm going to take your song and just tear it up, And she did. She rocked it out, and I love it. But but I identify more with Chris, obviously. So that's.
And I feel like I love Janice's version. Like, it's awesome. She has like one of the greatest voices in my opinion. But I feel like it's such a sad song. Like, having it like, other than having it stripped down, but that's how it was written. That feels backwards to say that. But having it more like less reliant on like instrumental, like you really hear the story in the song, and I feel like it speaks more that way. Yeah,
and I think that goes back to the what I was talking about with the stories of country music, and I just you get the story that way, I guess. Where Janice is more, I've heard that song a million times growing up, but I only knew the chorus and the la 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 and so you knew it, but I didn't know the story necessarily until I heard Chris's version. It's just it cuts through better, I guess, with just the guitar and vocals. So
it's almost like, I don't want to say it's like not as flashy, but it's like just having it like simple is good sometimes.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And well, if you listen to my stuff, you'll you'll see it's simple is well, maybe the only way I do it, but but it works for me. So
it's like, why fix something if it, what's the saying? Why fix something that's not broken? Is that saying?
Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah. Or keep it simple. That's kind of how I look at it. A lot of my favorite songs are, just acoustic guitar and a vocal. Maybe a little like brushes on a drum or something, but it comes through much better to me anyway. Maybe just because my ears are old now, but I don't know. So that's how I write anyway. Is like that, and that's how I record because I can't play anything else. So I can throw a bass on there every now and then, and I'm trying to learn the steel guitar. So, but that's a learning curve. So I'll be 60 or 70 before I do it well, if I do it at all. But
is steel guitar the same as like a lap guitar, or is it something different?
Yeah. So really, what I got is a lap guitar right now. But a buddy of mine, he's got a pedal steel, and so where you see the guy sitting there with the, looks like he's playing some kind of weird keyboard or something, right? But it's got between 8 and 10 strings or more, and then you've got 3 or 4 pedals and then a couple leg levers, and so each of those things do something different, and it's all bending strings and stuff that creates that kind of crying sound. Is
it almost like guitar pedals in a way?
No, more different. So these would be it's bending the string. So like if you listen to like blues or something and you get that bend of a string, this does it while you're playing all the strings together. And so it creates just a different sound. And it's I've told people it's my favorite sound in the world. It gives me goosebumps every time I hear it sometimes. And it's just it's like soaking into a warm bath or something, it just envelops you when they come in with that big pedal steel, and it just creates that big what some people would call a whining sound, but it's my favorite sound in the world. But it's a learning curve for sure. So
I mean, do you have to take like a different approach to? Oh, this is a dumb question. Do you have to take a different approach to it than just learning how to play regular guitar, basically? Because there's different technique with it.
Yes, because so it's tuned different also, and so you're kind of relearning a new neck in that aspect, and then there's different ways. So if you want to play one chord, you got to bend the bar. So you got this steel bar that you're sliding up and down the strings, and that's what creates that slide sound, right? And then if you bend it at an angle, it creates a minor chord, and if you do it straight, then it's a major chord, and it's a lot of walking up to this chord and walking back down, and then in the middle of that, you're using your legs and your knees to bend these levers and pedals, and then you got a volume pedal as well to kind of swell into it, So there's just a lot going on, Whereas, you got the regular guitar player up there, and he'll bend a couple notes, and everybody loves it, and they think, that's so amazing, right? And then this guy's over here like doing aerobics almost, and they're like, what was that? Why is that guy sitting at that weird keyboard over there, right? But yeah, that's the goal, that's the country music sound is kind of, you got that fiddle and the steel guitar, so there's nothing better.
It's like the essence, basically. Like, I don't know if I should. I don't know if this next song has a steel guitar in it. For Dark End of the Street?
Dark End of the Street, it might, actually. So.
Well, we can just see if it does.
Yeah. So the Flying Burrito Brothers, they, without them, you wouldn't have the Eagles and Steve Earle and all those guys that kind of did that country rock thing, they were kind of the first, and Sneaky Pete, I think he was on every album, and he did most of the pedal steel stuff. So, yeah, their stuff is really great. So, yeah.
Here is the Flying Burrito Brothers with Dark End of the Street. Welcome back to the Grapevine Show. You've been listening to the Grapevine Show. I don't know why I said the title twice, but I've been here at John Mackey for the last hour.
It's been a good time. It's gone fast, though.
Yeah. And that was Jim Crow's with Box Number 10, which I had not heard that song until today, even though I've been a fan of Jim Crow's for a while.
Yeah, it's kind of that story song of, trying to make it in the city and
the struggles that can come with it. Yeah.
And I think we can all identify with some of that. We've all gone out on our own at some point, and thankfully I have good parents that have helped me when I needed it, and I've made that call to them a couple times. Luckily I wasn't homeless at the time, but yeah, it's a sad song, but it's a good song. I like it.
It's like a sad song that has a good story with it, I think. It's like, even a sad story, if it's put into a song, it can still make for a good song.
Oh, yeah.
Or I guess a lot of my favorite songs are actually not happy songs. I don't know how it works that way.
Well, I listen to country music, so you can imagine, my favorite songs are the sad songs. My wife hates that because she's like, you listen to all the sad songs, but they make me happy. Like the blues, I listen to the blues, but the blues makes me happy for some reason.
Well, I feel like the blues music, this sounds really weird. And I'm a hippie, so this could just be some weird hippie, hippie, stuff. I was going to say something I cannot say on air. But I feel like the blues, I feel like it touches part of the human emotion that other music doesn't. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, life is tension. And so, the blues is all about tension. And that's why I think everybody can identify with it, And that's why I'm surprised my wife doesn't like it.
I feel like a lot of, just art in general, music and stuff, I feel like a lot of times people, I don't want to say project's not the word. A lot of times people write about their own problems, but it connects with people. That's just part of the beauty of art, I think.
Yeah. And, almost everything that's happened to you has happened to somebody else. And so that's with writing. It's like, how can you say this in some universal terms, and then once you put it out there, it belongs to the world, right? And so it's no longer yours, and it takes on a totally different form for some other people, and those are the great songs, I think, is when connect with different people on different levels and through different situations when it's not even what you wrote about.
It becomes more than a song at that point, which is weird, because I don't know a lot of people, if they I don't think anybody consciously sits down and goes, I'm going to write a song that's going to, mean this to somebody. You can never predict that kind of stuff. It kind of just happens sometimes.
Yeah, you can never, you hear about so many songs that save people's lives, and I don't think the writer sat down and said, I'm going to save someone's life with this saxophone solo, and it just happens, It's however it connects with the listener, and that's the beauty of music. It's I'm. It's kind of one of those things, you hear people say, it's a healing power, and and I don't know that it's healing, but it at least alleviates some pain, and that's my job, I guess.
I've seen some concerts, like this one performer actually said, like he wants people just to forget about their problems just for like the 2 hours as he plays basically, and just like let the music just, I don't want to say distract people, but I feel like it's definitely like another like space with concerts. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah,
and it's a shared experience with the other 15 or 20,000 people that are there with you or more, right? Or the 10, that maybe they're, it's just, it's a weird thing, right? Because you've been there and you're experiencing this thing with a person on stage, right? And the song that you've got some connection to through your life and you've grown up with or whatever. And everybody in that room is doing the same thing through totally different events in their life. But now you're all sharing it at the same time. And it creates almost a spiritual experience, and I'm not necessarily, religious or anything, but it's just, it's almost spiritual, or cathartic in a way or whatever, right? And I think that's where I would put the healing powers of it on is through that. So
I think there's actually, I'm going to butcher it, there's a Dave Grohl quote where he says something like, when I play a song on stage, like, I'm singing it, but there's 50,000 people singing it back for 50,000 different reasons, basically.
Yes, exactly. No, that's absolutely true. And like I say, you've seen it, I've seen it, I've experienced it, and that's the beauty of music.
Indeed, that is the beauty of music. I think we're almost out of time here on the Grapevine Show, but thanks for coming into the studio today, John.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a good time. I appreciate it.
Thanks to everyone who's tuned in tonight. Next week will be the same time, 6 to 7 Wednesday. I don't know if there's going to be another interview with somebody else, but who knows? That's part of the Grapevine Show. You don't really know what's going to happen, but you can say you heard it through the grapevine.